Hey, it's Spyro at BindRecord.org, and this is a checking out video for Dishonored. And I'm joined by
Akythius. That would be me. Hello.
That'd be you. So we're a bit late to the game on this one, because this is actually Game of the Year for last year.
And rightly so.
And rightly so. This game is amazing. It really is.
I played it, before we go into about the game, I bought it on Steam, must have been October last year, maybe.
Yeah.
Played it, loved it. So I tried to get everyone to play it because it's just really that good.
Now, I remember
now eventually people are playing it.
I remember seeing gameplay footage of it, and it looked pretty good, but nothing really made me want to buy it. But then when I had you explain it to me, and when I saw it was Game of the Year, I was like, I should probably check this out, and that's what we're doing.
And definitely no regrets, right?
Oh, definitely not. No. Like, the way I've played this game, I'm doing 3 playthroughs. I've done my first playthrough, I'm going to start a second one, and there will be a third one. And this is one thing I want to stress about it. All 3 times I play this game will be completely different.
I read, I'll come back to the gameplay stuff later on, because that's another point that we want to talk about.
Yeah.
But there's something kind of I just thought interesting that I thought of that we can talk about in a bit. So I guess let's kick off with the storyline.
Yeah.
So, quick summary of the storyline. It's set in a place called Dunwall, which is kind of like a city-state. And right at the beginning of the game, the Empress who rules over it is murdered. And the guy you play as, who's called Corvo, is framed for her murder. And a nice dramatic moment there.
That's what I'm...
An oppressive regime takes over and basically, well, oppresses everyone. And there's a whole plague going on with rats and so on. And they use that as cover to sort of control the population. So your goal basically is to try and overthrow this regime so people can be, well, free again, and find out who assassinated the Empress, and more crucially, get her daughter who survived back and put her in a position to actually rule over Dunwall.
And so it's a revenge sort of story. You were framed for the murder, you've been locked up, you escaped with the help of loyalists, and it's sort of, what would you do if you got out?
Yeah. The setting for it is fantastic. It was actually designed by a guy called Victor Antonov, who designed City 17 and Half-Life 2.
And you can kind of see it.
You can kind of see it, especially in the main part that really made me think, this is kind of like, you can see the influence is there's these small metal vehicles, like the 4-wheeled ones, kind of like cars, and sort of like the style of them and the sharp edges remind me very much of the vehicles that the Combine troops used in City 17, the Overwatch. The
thing that really made me think Half-Life was the tall boys. They look like Striders if the Striders' main body part was a turret, like the portal turret.
Yeah, well, a sort of more mechanical one,
yeah. Yeah, it's the same sort of shape as a portal turret, but it's the long legs made me think Strider.
The actual sort of, I guess, people who are in the tall boys reminded me of, towards the end of Half-Life 2, when you've got, I can't remember what they're called, the humans that have kind of been, like, drained and they have lasers for eyes.
Oh, yeah,
and, like, sort of strange leg replacements. They kind of remind me of those, sort of like that, kind of like captured or enslaved.
Yeah. The other thing this game reminded me of was the game Rage, which is another Bethesda game. So it makes sense because I think this is on the same engine as well. Because Rage was the game that was built to show off this engine. It's the only reason that the game came about. Really, it's a really poor version of Borderlands, but I thought the game was all right. And when playing this, I saw it was near the beginning when you get to the what was the pub called? The Hound Pits. Yeah, the Hound Pits.
Yeah.
You get to the pub and you're talking to a lot of the characters, and it was the scientist guy. I was like, your art design looks really familiar. Sort of a bit of a cartoony, cell shaded thing going on, and it was just like Rage.
I do love like the visual design of like the whole thing. It's like the environments look absolutely fantastic. They're sort of like really detailed. They look beautiful. And then, like, even the characters, they're quite interesting because it's almost like a cross between sort of realism and slightly cartoony. I remember the character's name escapes me. The sort of the general type guy that you work with?
Havelock.
That's the one. His hands are enormous.
Yeah, I know, right? It was when he was holding that the pint, and I was just like, your hand is as big as the glass. It's a caricature, kind of, but it's quite realistic.
Yeah, it's also like it's a strange mixture, but it works really well. And one thing I learned earlier when I was doing some research for this video is that it was actually based around sort of 19th century / early 20th century London and Edinburgh, and like how they wanted to sort of do like the layout of the city and the kind of the visual sort of feel of it. But I love the sort of depth of the world and like the attention to detail.
Yeah, so having spent a lot of time in both of those cities, I definitely agree with that. Like, there are certain parts of London where you definitely be like, I can see that in here, like sort of Victorian style sometimes. But
streets and so
yeah, which a lot of Edinburgh is like that. A lot of Edinburgh is cobblestone streets and sort of very tight archways and back alleys and things like that. And definitely it comes across.
It makes for some really interesting gameplay as well. So it's like I liked how it wasn't really open world, but you had like sort of a level area, I guess. But how you chose to like complete that level or do your objectives was entirely up to you, and you could use like the environment as you wanted. So you could run through and go nuts like I did, or you could sort of creep around and be very stealthy like you did.
There was always at least 3 or 4 ways to progress. Like well, I think it was the second level where you've got the golden cat, but before you even get to the golden cat, you're going through sort of the main city to try and get there. Now, there's a bit where there's a wall of light in the way, which is an electric fence, sort of, that only sort of allies can go through. So if you go through it, you're going to get killed. If any of the guards go through it, they're fine. Now, you could choose to sort of dismantle this wall and go through it that way, or you could go over the top of that building, or there's some sewer systems to go underneath it. There's a way to go around the left, a way to go around the right. You've got so much choice in this, depending on your style of gameplay.
There's another option, the one that I actually went for, which was blowing shit up option.
Oh yeah?
And basically I just caused an explosion on the other side of it by throwing like well and all that sort of stuff through and caused it to blow up the power source for it.
Yeah. Now
that was quite fun.
So
it alerts everyone though. So you have been warned.
So there's so many different styles that you could play this game, and so it's open for whatever your style of gameplay is. Now, I went for what I've been told is a really, really hard way of doing it. Apparently, this is harder than playing the game on hard. There are certain achievements in the game that require you to not kill anyone, and it's called Clean Hands, to not be alerted, and it's called Ghost, and mostly Flesh and Steel, which is to not upgrade any of your abilities. So all you can do is use Blink, which is not really a teleport move, it's just move rather quickly. So if you were to use it in front of someone's eye line, they'd still see you, so it's not teleporting, per se.
I did see another interesting one that was kind of like based off that idea. I'm trying to think what it was. They took like a step further and they enforced like their own rules, like having to like sort of hide bodies better and that sort of thing. And I can't remember the full details of it, but it was like sort of stepping it up, and it was like basically
I kind of had that too.
They made up.
I kind of had that too. It was at the end of each level, you were told whether you killed anyone was alerted, any of the bodies that you killed or knocked unconscious were found. I did that as well. No bodies were found for me. It doesn't affect any of the achievements I was talking about, but I just thought it was something to do. I would always throw bodies into dumpsters or, tuck them around behind things or stuff like that.
The other thing that I really liked was that you don't have to pick your style of playthrough and stick with it throughout the whole game. So it's like, I did probably most of my missions just going crazy. But the odd ones I sort of like thought, I fancy sort of a bit of a challenge and just played them as stealth. And I love how like that flexibility of the game. You can play it however you want, whenever you want. And it's like if you're doing it stealthy and you fuck up, you can just go mad. Yeah. You don't care like about achievements like me.
Now, so there are 2 endings to the game: a low chaos and a high chaos.
There's actually 3.
There's a third ending.
There's a third ending, but we're not going to talk about too much about endings on here.
No.
But there are actually 3. I'll tell you about the one after this.
Okay, the point I was just going to say with the third endings, but you're saying that you can sort of change your gameplay as you go through. If you want to get certain endings, you will want to be killing less people to get the low chaos, and being more unruly to get the high chaos. Both, I've only seen the low chaos ending, but I know about the high chaos one, and they're both really good.
It's based on like sort of the way you play the game the most throughout. So if you play more missions where you don't kill people, then you'll get low chaos and so on.
Like
that sort of thing.
I wouldn't say it's a morality choice like how other games do, but it's along those lines.
No, I think it goes a bit deeper than morality.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like sort of like your attitude to playing, and it's like, I think the High Chaos ending was maybe slightly less satisfying, but it was kind of apt. But we're going for spoiler free, so I won't say any more about that. Just thinking about the character, you play as Corvo, and it's quite an interesting sort of, quite an interesting character actually. All of them are, I think, are all quite believable, and I liked sort of like the different abilities and so on. It was quite an interesting challenge. And it's like you have the heart to find different runes. You can use different abilities like Blink, which is the one you used, and all the extra ones.
Yeah, so that's the side of it that I haven't really got round to, using all the other abilities, because I've only used the Blink ability. And there's the guy who talks to you, it's the Outsider, isn't it?
Yeah. I nicked it in the email.
See, I don't know much about him, because I wasn't collecting the runes or the bone charms. I wasn't upgrading my abilities or getting any other abilities, so I don't know a lot about that.
You don't learn that much more about him.
Okay.
He's still very much a mystery by the end of the game, even if you collect all the runes and so on, or most of them. But
I suppose that is a shame.
It's an interesting idea, yeah. I mean, I think it could have been explored more. I mean, things like the Void, which is, for those who haven't played it, it's kind of like this sort of other dimension. It's where the Outsider lives, and he sort of communicates to you when you're there. Or
is that where all them
there.
Sort of floating rocks are?
Yeah.
Well, that's the tutorial mission for learning how to use Blink. That's what that is.
There's a tutorial for Blink?
Yeah, when you first get Blink, they teach you how to use it, and you're in this Void level.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah, I remember now. Yeah.
Right at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, that's the Void. Yeah, it's been a while since I played. So there are actually a couple of DLCs going out now. Before I say about DLCs, there is a bit of bad news. There's probably not going to be a sequel to Dishonored. It's not been confirmed either way, but it's just unlikely, really.
The way that the game plays out, we're unlikely to get a sequel. If there is, they're going to have to work it in very well, and
yeah,
I don't think they'll disappoint if they do, but I think it may be safer if they just leave it as it is.
Well, interestingly, there are 2 DLCs coming out this year. There is an add-on called Dunmore Trials, which is basically just sort of like 10 different missions, and you can do different things, and there's like challenges and stuff in them.
From the way I've seen it, it's if you ever played any of the Arkham games, City or Asylum, it's like the skill maps on that. You know, maps with enemies on it, and you've got to take people down certain ways.
Or maybe like the ones in Mirror's Edge.
Yes, sort of like that, yeah.
But so there are 2 DLCs coming out this year, though. One is called The Knife of Dunmore, and it's out shortly on April the 16th, although Steam says April the 15th. And another one called Brigmore Witches, and it's kind of a 2-part DLC. And they tell the story of Dowd, who is the main antagonist of the story. And it goes through, I don't know how long they're going to be, but it basically tells the story from his side, his perspective. And you have similar sort of powers and mechanics and abilities and so on as when playing as Corvo. So that's quite interesting. I'm looking forward to those.
Yeah, I wasn't really too sure about whether I would get the DLCs, but now that I know that it's playing as Dowd, he's a side of it I really want to know more about. Because, sure, he's the main antagonist, but you don't learn much about him. You only see him a couple of times, really.
Yeah.
He's very much that faceless guy until about the 8th mission.
Don't say any more.
I'm not going to say any more, but you don't really get much on him until sort of the 8th mission.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's 7th mission, there's only 9.
Part of a group of assassins called the Whalers, and that's all we're going to tell you. So it's quite... I've completely forgotten what I was going to say. Anyway, so there's a gameplay trailer called the E3 gameplay trailer, and it's got a song called The Drunken Whaler. If you haven't played this game, go and watch that. It'll be in the links down below, and it will make you want to play this game. Yeah, it's one of the best trailers I've ever seen.
If we haven't convinced you to play this just by our talking, or by the fact that this was Game of the Year, this trailer will. It's like, if I had seen this trailer before I was told to play the game, I would have bought it.
Yeah.
It's the best it's the best game trailer I've seen so far. It with the hauntingness of the song mixed with the stylist, or the way that the game is stylized. It's brilliant. They mix perfectly.
It's gameplay as well, which is really good. And the song is called Drunken Whaler, and it's based off basically the whole setting and whaling and so on. And it's kind of like what's the other song? Drunken Sailor.
Drunken Sailor, yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of based off that, but it's like a kid singing is really haunting, and like the whole atmosphere. It just it sums up the game perfectly, and like sort of the feel of it.
It reminded me very much of the opening of Pirates 4, where you had the kids singing and all the pirates singing as well. Very haunting.
I've not played that.
It's a film.
I've not seen that.
Anyway, stop listening to us and go out and get this game.
Yeah. So I think we should rate this game. What do you give it out of 10?
Oh God, we do rating games now.
We do.
Of games I've played recently, it's going to be high. It's like a 9 or an 8, really. There are a few. So I had a few issues with it. There are a few glitches. Then there weren't bad ones, but they did cost me an achievement. I knocked a guy out and placed him down on a roof. He glitched through the roof and fell into the water because it was on the flooded level, and he drowned. So it cost me the clean hands achievement.
Oh well.
It's annoying, stuff like that. It didn't ruin the gameplay, but it's just, I was going for that whole kind of way of doing it. But no, I'd say 8 or 9. It's a very high game. I can't tell you what the main problems were, but I'm never going to give a perfect score to a game.
Yeah, I mean,
there's always room for improvement.
Well, definitely, but personally, I'd give this one a 9 out of 10. It was hands down the best game I played in 2012 out of like games released that year.
Yeah.
Probably one of the best ones I've played in the past few years, actually. There again, I have just bought Bioshock Infinite, so that might change. But yeah, such a brilliant game.
Cool.
Right, let's wrap this up. Thank you for listening. And
thanks for listening. Go buy it. Yeah, go buy it and such. And watch all our videos as well, because self-plugging is a thing we do now.
Yep, it is. And I'm told that it was supposed to tell you to like the video and subscribe to the channel, so you should do that as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, thanks for listening.
Bye.